You said that Canelo is going to make $250 million, and you were talking about that's just an insane amount of money. But I could argue that look at the contracts in the NBA, look at the contracts in the other major sports. They're all going to stratospheres that I never imagined during my 18 years doing what I did. So is boxing any different? There were always huge numbers. Even when we saw Mike Tyson fight or Holyfield or back in the day, boxers were making a tremendous amount of money on a per fight basis. Isn't this just the same sort of inflationary growth that we're seeing everywhere else?
I mean, yes and no, and a big no. I mean, we did see Evander Holyfield making, 26 million when he knocked out Buster Douglas in 1990 for the heavyweight championship. We saw that escalated up through 2015, Mayweather Pacquiao, where Mayweather earned a guarantee of $100 million. And then, according to him, took home upwards of 300 million when all the pay-per-view receipts, all the hot dog receipts, all the t-shirts in the arena, all of that, when that was added up. This is another level to that. Now, look, Canelo Alvarez is the biggest star in the sport. This is going to be kicking off a new era on Netflix. It's sort of a generational fight against Terrence Crawford. But it's not just Canelo making that money. Seemingly everyone who agrees to sign up with Turki Al-Sheikh, fight on his ring cards, fight in Riyadh season, which is sort of the general name for the sporting events that Turkey brings to Saudi Arabia. People are making career high paydays like we've never seen before. There's a little bit of a negative in there. It's led to some fights where fighters weren't necessarily going for it. They were maybe sitting on their laurels and cashing that paycheck. Well, what has Turkey done since then? He's been very vocal. He said, no more Tom and Jerry fights. He says, I need smash, I need blood, I need real fighting. So you can earn that money, but there's now certainly a lot of pressure on you to perform and deserve that money. Is it an escalation comparative to pro sports? I guess to some degree. Although, look, I'm not bagging on Canelo's ability to make a buck. He was maybe Turkey's biggest enemy for a while, the biggest star fighter outside of Gervonta Tank Davis, who wouldn't sign with Turkey until the price got high enough, and suddenly he did. He's going to make that money for 36 minutes of work if this fight goes the distance. That, to me, is a lot more than an NBA player signing a one-year deal for 60 million.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I will agree. And if they need blood, if Turkey's looking for blood, I guess he could turn it into wrestling. And that would be one of the biggest concerns for your future and for what you're looking at, because you don't want this to become that. It's not a scripted, it's supposed to not be scripted, but it sounds like if the hand that's feeding you the gold wants a certain level of performance, that's sounding more and more like he wants to control even outcomes, and that should be scary to everybody. And he certainly wants to control the message. You remember Turkey just bought Ring Magazine.
Yes.
So he's actually trying to control the message, putting people in his own jail named after him for tweets that may go against him, telling fighters that, hey, I can't believe he uses the Tom and Jerry reference. That sort of makes me laugh thinking about them watching Tom and Jerry, unless there's a new up-to-date Tom and Jerry, and I'm too old to be cool to know what that means. But he seems to now want to control everything. Again, taking a small page out of the United States, in that this is not new. John Henry owns the Boston Globe and the Boston Red Sox. There are owners of teams who own newspapers and obviously worry about that conflict. And when Turkey does it, it sounds like that we get more upset because John Henry doesn't put people in jail.
Yes, there's that other half of it. And I'd be remiss to mention the multiple journalists that were actually killed by the Saudi Arabian government, including as recently as last month. Maybe this doesn't get the reporting level that it deserves, but it's certainly concerning. And in regards to his purchase of Ring Magazine, Turkey has spun it forward to create a very good series named after the ring that he's largely putting on in the U.S., which has been a nice change considering in the 2 years since Turki Al-Sheikh came to boxing, he's kind of killed the American boxing market just from the standpoint of taking all those big fights that used to come to Las Vegas, that used to attract the Mexican and Mexican-American fans that are still the financial backbone of this sport, and putting them in Saudi Arabia. For example, Canelo Alvarez fought May 3rd in his debut in Saudi Arabia. He fought at 7:30 a.m. local time in front of less than 4,000 people, compared to selling out arenas in Vegas and being such a big deal. But when Turkey purchased the Ring Magazine, there was a statement put out that this would be an editorial entity that was completely separate from him, from Riyadh season, from his dealings, Unfortunately, what we've seen since then is the exact opposite. Turkey using this legendary publication as essentially his own extension of his own voice to carry out grudges, to call out his enemies, and to even threaten fighters and journalists in very subtle ways. So it's gotten pretty aggressive in that regard on the idea of almost a state-run media entity, but that's where we are in 2025.
It's only a matter of time before everyone takes the money. And the fact is, it already happened in soccer. I mean, Ronaldo went there and took the money. They're trying to find, if you had NBA teams or basketball teams in Saudi Arabia, would it be crazy to think that he would make an offer? There'd be an offer made for $150 million a season, no salary cap, come over and play in our new league. You know, they did it with, Coca, Live, the golf tour.
Sure.
They funded that and said, hey, we're going to write you a check guaranteed. Phil Mickelson, you may stink, but what a great name. And just make sure you gamble it in our casinos. But at the end of the day, when you've got the money to throw around, it's not long before the money and the power become the same thing.